Hey everyone, welcome to Watch It Paint It. In today's episode of Making Paint Good, Making Paint Great Again. In today's episode of Making Paint Great Again, we're going to be looking at another part of working for the Army Painters paint development team. Now, they brought us on to test the new speed paints that they're going to be releasing, but as well as that, it is to add new colours that we ourselves and the community, that's you guys out there, pay attention, we need your help. Which colours do we think are missing from the old set and the new paints that are going to be releasing sometime, hopefully this year, given that there's 365 days, so that we should see it this year, right? Anyway, we need some new colours, and in this video we're going to be exploring, making and creating and developing some of the colours we think are missing. So going back through the comments of videos we've made in the past, we can see people agree with us. We think there was more of a true black, a dark black missing from this range. Grim black by no means is bad. It's a really, really good take on a black paint. Black paint, I've mentioned this many times in videos in the past, it's quite hard to paint because black is just black. How do you darken down black for the recesses, and how do you highlight it up without it just being a grey? Grim black is a very dark grey in my opinion, and it captivates painting black really well. So it's not a bad colour whatsoever, but sometimes if you're like myself, many of us out there need to paint two versions of black on the same miniatures. Some miniatures are predominantly black. They might be wearing leather boots, leather cloak, leather clothes, and you need some distinguishing change in that sort of tone of black. So anyway, I think that's a really good colour for us to start with. In this video we're going to explore starting with black, but we'll see where we go. There's other colours missing. I'm going to go back through all the comments, see what everybody else thought, as well as what we ourselves think are missing from the set. We're going to go through it. We're going to develop it right here, right now, make up some colours, see what you guys think, make up some names. I think we'll go for some names. We'll give some suggestions, and by all means let us know if you think they're good, or you can make them better in the comments. But yeah, let's start with black. That's it. It's just adding black pigment and some medium together. Making paints ain't that hard. Now, obviously, there was a reason we started with black. I am not actually a scientist as much as I fooled you into believing, so I'm not Brent, but black was going to be one of the easier colours we had in mind to make, and while we're still waiting for you to suggest them in the comments, it was a good one to begin with. But having said that, it still took 6 different iterations, 6 variations to mix up and try and test out on miniatures until we found the right combination of that medium with the black pigment. And once we'd produced a colour we were happy with and a consistency and a flow we went with. Don't forget, this is still prototypes. Pigments are pretty much set in stone, but the actual formula is still work in progress, and the flow and stuff isn't going to be quite right, especially when we're making them at home. But we were happy with this consistency, and then it was about time to test it in some miniatures. The first and most obvious comparison is to compare the new black with the old black, and this is Grim Black, the speed paint from the original speed paint set, compared to the new black we've made at home using the newer pigments. Hopefully this comes across well in the video, but the new black is much darker, but without going too dark, there's still some contrast, and that was very much the variations we need to try out, get the right amount of medium to make it look black, but giving, recessed shadows and raised highlights. The most obvious thing that came out of this is that this black is not a true black. It is very dark purple. I don't know actually if that comes across that well on the camera, but trust me, in person it's got a very purple hue to it, and I actually really disliked that when we started, but I've painted it on a few miniatures now and I've grown to really like it. So let's have a look at it used in anger. Here we have the black applied. In fact, all of these colours are the new speed paint range, and this black is the one we've created here at home. So I think this looks like a really strong contender. It's very black, but it has recesses, it has shadows, it has highlights, but it looks black. It's not dark grey. It does have a slight purple hue to it, but I think, thinking about that, like I said, I didn't like it when I first saw it, but it's just grown more and more on me the more I've painted with this, and I think it's a colour I've actually been looking for quite a lot when I've painting up Black Templar, I always want a sort of blue or purple hue sort of undertone to it, and I think I've accidentally stumbled across it with this new speed paint, and I'm desperate to go and paint up a marine and just see if it does exactly what I think. But I'm fairly happy with this colour. This is basically, I believe, as good as we can get with the black pigment, so it's really up to you guys. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Is there room for this? Do we need this? Is this not quite perfect? And if it's not, then is there any point in adding it? Just genuinely let us know what you think in the comments. This feedback matters. Army Painter aren't necessarily going to make any of the colours that we come up with. This was just the first, warming ourselves up, aren't we? Getting an easy win in, and I think playing with black was a nice easy warm up, and now we've got used to playing with pigment and the mediums and getting the flow about right. So we're ready to roll. We'll do some more colours. While painting up that Eldar, it was fairly obvious a new white was also needed. It's been mentioned in the comments, and it's something I wanted. Unlike Grim Black, which I do actually like, Holy White is not one of my favourite speed paint colours. In fact, I often fall back to using contrast for that. I find the Holy White to be fairly grey. So while we're knocking out easy wins, we thought we'd create a new white. Now this isn't quite as easy as doing the black because it requires 2 pigments. So we've got the white master pigment and we've got the black master pigment. Now anybody else who's mixed colours before, you're probably used to dropping drops of this, drops of that together. This is so strong, the black is so much stronger than white. It was drops and drops of white and micro drops of black, and then just splashing in some medium to make it flow that little bit better. Tested quite a few different variations and ratios between the 2 colours until we got what we thought was the best looking white. So I think the last useful thing for you guys to see is just comparing this Eldar to an original one. Let's see what we can do with the original speed paint. And this is really just for you guys to compare Grim Black and Holy White used in anger versus this new black and new white we've just produced. See them side by side and see what you think. Bada bing, bada boom, there we have it, guys. The new black on the left and the old Grim Black on the right. And as you can see, especially next to each other, this looks like a dark grey, doesn't it? Now, don't get me wrong, as I was painting this up, the first thing I noticed is Grim Black's really good. I did mention that at the start of the video. It's very, very quick. Apologies for my piss poor paint job. It's pooled quite heavily in some places, so do ignore that. You can get a better paint job, but you get a feel for the very strong colour difference, don't you? But ultimately, guys, it's quite subjective, but let us know in the comments below. We need your feedback. Army Painters need your feedback. Is there room for 2 blacks? Is this black good enough? Is it worth doing? Let's just quickly talk about the whites as well. So once again, the left is the new white we've just brewed, and the right is the original Holy White, and there is a subtle difference. It's quite hard to show you on camera, but hopefully you can just see how much brighter the left one is. It really is a white now, not a light grey that you hope pulls away into the recesses. Let's try and have a look at the back. That's probably the best place to see the difference. You've got the left being whiter, but you've still got that contrast. Can you see around the lumps on the back of his helmet? It's still very pale grey, so you're still getting that effect. It's just pulling away that much stronger. Let's try and just look at those foreheads. That's the biggest key. You can see the right, the original, that Holy White is just greyed down. It's just dulled that ever so slightly, and I think I painted this part very, very carefully and did one of the better Holy White jobs I've ever done. But this I didn't paint carefully, and you can see it's just pulled away. It's got grey around his chin and on those bits over there. Just kind of what I've always wanted from a white contrast. Now, do bear in mind, once again, these are just prototypes. Army Painter's job will be to go away and make them flow better. Contrast can be increased. You can see the contrast on the new black again is quite subtle. It's not as strong as the original Grim Black. It doesn't pull away as much. That's something Army Painter may be able to tweak in their lab when they know a lot more about how these paints work than we do. But either way, you've got a couple of colours here now to give a good think about. I guess the last thing to do is to mention names. Guys, these need naming, and so far for the black, we've come up with Nightmare Black. Also considered Event Horizon. I don't know why, but I feel to me that's like black with a purple hue, so I thought that was quite a cool name. And then for the white, just looking at it on camera, I think it's got to be Blinding Light. It just looks, it's blowing out my camera. It's so much brighter, the white, and yet it's still got some shadows in the recesses. Anyway, guys, there's the current names. What do you think to those names? Let us know in the comments. And if you've got better suggestions, also let us know those too. Don't forget, Army Painter are going to be giving them a sort of human readable name description on all the paint bottles as well. So don't worry about being too extravagant. It doesn't really matter. It's going to say dark black. If they make it, we don't know. This is not set in stone. These are prototypes. These are just things we would like to see, and Army Painter may or may not choose to do so, and it's going to base on your feedback primarily. So yeah, get feedbacking. Thank you all ever so much for watching. See you again soon.